The transport shuttle shook as it passed through the thin clouds of the training moon. Pale light spread over the rocky ground below, cold and empty. The Academy had chosen this place because it was harsh and silent. It was meant to test fear. Among the cadets sat a young human named Lena. She kept her hands folded and her eyes low. Her uniform was clean, her boots new. Around her were students from many worlds. Some were tall with hard eyes. Some had scales or thick skin. Most did not look at her for long. When they did, it was with doubt or quiet humor. Humans were new to the Academy, and rumors said they were fragile. The shuttle landed with a heavy thud. The rear door opened, letting cold air rush inside. An instructor's voice filled the cabin, calm and firm. The cadets were told to move out, form teams, and begin the survival exercise. Supplies were limited. Help would be slow. The test would last until night. Lena stepped onto the gray ground. The cold bit through her gloves. She breathed slowly, steadying herself. She had trained for this. She had trained longer than most knew. Still, she felt small in this place. Teams formed quickly. Lena was not chosen at first. Others grouped by strength or shared language. Finally, she joined a small team with 3 others. There was Ren, a quiet cadet with careful eyes. There was Ivo, who talked too much to hide his nerves. And there was Kale, tall and proud, who barely acknowledged Lena. They moved away from the landing zone, following the maps sent to their wrist units. The ground was uneven, cracked by old ice. The sky stayed bright but cold. No wind, no sound. Hours passed. They found shelter in a narrow stone hollow. They shared water and checked their tools. Lena listened more than she spoke. She watched how Kael held his blade, how Ren scanned the dark spaces, how Ivo's hands shook. The warning came without sound. Lena felt it first, a change in the air. Her muscles tightened. She turned her head just as something moved across the rocks. It was fast, low, and almost the same color as the ground. Kale laughed once, thinking it was nothing. Then it rushed them. The creature was all sharp motion and hunger. It leaped with terrible speed. Kale barely raised his weapon before he fell back, surprised. Ivo froze, unable to move. Ren shouted a warning that came too late. Lena did not think. Training took over. Her body moved before fear could speak. She stepped forward, quiet as breath. She used the simple tool at her side, not heavy, not loud. One strike, clean and precise. The creature fell. It was over in seconds. Silence returned, deeper than before. The body lay still on the stone. Kale stared, wide-eyed. Ivo dropped to his knees, shaking. Ren looked at Lena as if seeing her for the first time. Lena stood frozen. Her heart raced. Her hands felt cold and heavy. She looked down at what she had done. She had ended a life. She swallowed hard and stepped back. The Academy cameras caught everything. No one spoke for a long time. Then the wrist units buzzed with a message. The instructors had seen the encounter. The test would continue. Medical help was not needed.
Move on.
Kale did not meet Lena's eyes after that. Ivo stayed close to Ren. Lena walked at the back, her thoughts loud in her head. She felt no pride, only a tight ache in her chest. She wondered if the creature had known fear. She wondered if she had. As the light faded, the cold grew sharper. Shadows stretched across the rocks. The team found another shelter, deeper and safer. They lit a small heat unit and shared what little food they had. Ivo finally spoke, his voice low. He said Lena had saved them. Ren nodded in agreement. Kale said nothing. He watched the dark beyond the shelter. Lena stared at the stone wall. She replayed the moment again and again. She knew the move had been correct. She knew there had been no other choice. Still, the weight of it pressed on her. Far above, in a quiet control room, instructors reviewed the footage. Some leaned forward, some frowned. One officer paused the image on Lena's calm face, her steady hands. Human files opened on their screens, long ignored. Outside the academy, signals traveled farther than planned. Night fell fully. The moon turned dark and sharp. Sounds returned, distant and unknown. The cadets waited, tense and awake. Lena sat apart, listening. She did not hear the whispers yet, but they had already begun. Morning came slowly on the training moon. The light was weak and pale, like it was afraid to touch the ground. Lena woke before the others. She had not slept well. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the creature fall again. She sat up and checked the area. The night had been quiet, too quiet. Her breath formed small clouds in the cold air. She rubbed her hands together and stood. Ren woke next. He nodded at her, careful and respectful. He did not speak about the night before. Kale and Ivo followed soon after. Kale avoided looking at Lena. Ivo looked at her too much, like he was unsure what to say. Their wrist units buzzed again. A new message appeared. The exercise would continue for one more cycle. Teams were to move toward the next signal point. They packed up and moved out. As they walked, Lena noticed something had changed. The others stayed closer to her now, even Kale. When they stopped, they waited for her to scan first. When a sound echoed across the rocks, eyes turned toward her. She did not like it. By midday, they reached a narrow valley filled with broken stone. The signal point lay somewhere inside. Shadows clung to the cracks in the ground. Lena felt the same pressure in the air she had felt before. But this time, she said nothing. She did not want to be wrong. They moved carefully. A sudden cry echoed from far ahead. Another team. Kale reacted fast and moved forward, but Lena grabbed his arm. He froze, surprised. She shook her head once. Ren agreed and signaled silence. They crouched low and waited. Moments later, shapes moved in the distance. More than one. Too many. They pulled back without sound. The academy cameras watched from above. Instructors leaned closer to their screens. The human had stopped a charge without a word. The team changed direction and took a longer path around the valley. It cost them time and energy, but they reached the signal point by late afternoon. The wrist units confirmed success. Another message followed. They were not alone. Multiple teams were now moving closer together. The instructor said it was part of the test. Cooperation under pressure. As the sun dropped low, Lena spotted movement on a nearby ridge. Not a creature, a figure. Watching, she raised her hand and the group stopped. Ren followed her gaze. Kale cursed under his breath. Another team appeared from the shadows. They were tense, weapons ready. Their leader, a broad cadet named Oren, stepped forward. His eyes flicked to Lena, then away. He had seen the footage. They formed a loose camp together as night approached. Heat units hummed softly. The air felt tight, heavy with fear and unspoken thoughts. Whispers began. Lena heard her name carried softly between strangers, not spoken directly, just enough. She ended it fast. No sound at all. like the dark moved. Someone said the words that would follow her from that night onward. Death whisper. Lena closed her eyes. She wished she could be anywhere else. Ren sat beside her, keeping his voice low. He said names did not matter, actions did. She nodded but did not answer. Far from the camp, deep in the Academy Control Center, a senior officer stood alone. Commander Holt watched the recordings again and again. He slowed them, paused them. The way Lena moved was not reckless. It was controlled, learned. He opened sealed files. Human training records, survival doctrine, endurance tests. His expression hardened. Elsewhere, a signal slipped past Academy firewalls. The footage traveled farther than intended. Someone had made sure of it.
Night deepened. The first attack came without warning.
A screen tore through the dark from the far edge of camp. Shapes rushed in, fast and low. Panic spread as weapons flashed and heat units toppled. Lena moved before the fear could take hold. She did not shout. She did not rush. She pulled Ren down and signaled left. Kale followed without question this time. She struck only when needed. Quiet, precise. The attackers fell back, confused and injured. Silence returned in broken pieces. No one spoke. They looked at Lena with something new in their eyes. Not doubt, not fear alone. Respect. Lena's hands shook once it was over. She hid them by her sides. The instructor sent a message moments later. All teams were to remain alert. This level of threat had not been expected. Commander Holt clenched his jaw. He knew the truth now. This was no longer just a test. As the camp settled into uneasy watch, Lena sat awake, staring into the dark. She felt eyes on her, far beyond the moon. She did not know who was watching. But she knew one thing. This night had changed everything. The next morning, the cold remained. The training moon had no warmth left from the weak sun. Lena walked with her team toward the next exercise zone. Each step was careful, each movement measured. She did not speak much, but her eyes scanned everything. Ren stayed close. He had learned to trust Lena's instincts. Kale still avoided direct contact, but he followed without argument. Ivo shuffled along, quieter than yesterday. Oren's team walked slightly ahead, watching their surroundings with tense eyes. The instructions from the academy were simple. Reach the central outpost, survive obstacles, report back. But Lena knew it was more than that. The attacks had shown the instructors something they had not seen before. Lena felt it too. She was being watched, studied, tested beyond what was written. The terrain grew rougher. Sharp rocks cut the soft soles of their boots. The group moved in silence, broken only by the occasional sound of shifting stones. Lena felt the air change again. A strange pressure, like the world itself, held its breath. Suddenly, a figure appeared on a ridge above them, tall, armored, moving with speed. Lena froze, recognizing the motion immediately. Not a test creature, not another cadet. This was something different, something unknown. The figure dropped quickly toward them. Kale raised his blade, but Lena grabbed his arm. She shook her head and pointed to the side. Ren followed her gaze. Ivo swallowed hard. The unknown attacker moved faster than anyone expected. Lena stepped forward, quietly. She moved as if part of the shadows themselves. One precise strike, and the attacker faltered. Another, and it fell to the ground. The team stared, breathless. Lena had acted again, almost without thought, almost without noise. Silence returned. The ridge was empty. The air felt heavier, full of tension and questions. Lena looked at her hands. She had done it again. Another life ended. Another danger stopped. The others stared at her with awe, fear, and confusion. They continued toward the outpost, slower now, more careful. Every shadow, every movement could hide danger. Lena felt her senses sharpen. Every sound, every shift of light told her more than it should have. She moved with a confidence that unsettled the others. By mid-afternoon, they reached a ruined watchtower. Its walls were cracked, but it offered a high view of the surrounding terrain. Lena climbed first, silent and fast. She scanned the area, marking safe paths and potential threats. The others followed more slowly, watching her. Ren stayed at her side. Kale hung back, keeping an eye on the shadows. Ivo trailed behind, uneasy but silent. Oren's team took positions across the ruins, alert and tense. As the sun began to sink, signals appeared on the wrist units. Not from the academy, not from known teams, unknown transmissions, short and coded, moving across secure frequencies. Lena felt a chill. She did not speak, but her expression hardened. The instructors were watching. Others, too, far beyond the moon. Night fell quickly. The shadows were deeper, longer. The ruins seemed alive with sound. Lena felt it. Danger moving quietly, waiting, testing. The first attack came without warning. Figures emerged from the darkness, swift and silent. Weapons glinted in the moonlight. Cadets screamed and scattered. Lena moved immediately, silently leading Ren and Kale through the chaos. She struck only when necessary. Her moves were clean, efficient, deadly without display. Every opponent that tried to rush her found themselves stopped before they could act. Ivo stayed behind her, following her guidance without words. Oren's team tried to coordinate, but they were clumsy, slow, and uncertain. The fight ended almost as quickly as it began. The attackers retreated, shocked and injured. Silence returned, but heavier this time. Lena's team stared at her, trying to understand the quiet power she held. They had never seen anything like it. Not in drills, not in training, only in legends. Ren whispered her name, almost reverent. Lena did not respond. She only scanned the area, ensuring there were no hidden dangers. Kale avoided looking directly at her. Ivo shook, but did not speak. Oren's team looked at her with a mixture of fear and awe. The Academy sent another message. All teams were to hold position and maintain watch until extraction. The level of threat had exceeded expectation. Lena knew this meant she was no longer just a cadet. She was a test, a warning, something far more important than she had realized. Commander Holt watched from the Academy control room. His expression was grave. He had underestimated the humans. Lena had changed that assumption in moments. He opened files he had long ignored, reading reports on human endurance, adaptability, and strategy. His hand clenched into a fist. The human was dangerous, not because of rage, but because she could act where others hesitated, endure when others fell, and think beyond the expected. Far beyond the moon, unseen signals carried footage of the encounter. Observers from distant systems watched with growing concern. The human had proven herself, and the galaxy was beginning to take notice. Back in the ruins, Lena sat quietly, listening to the wind, the distant echoes, the soft sounds of movement. Death, whisper, they whispered again. This time carried not by fear alone, but by awe. She had not asked for it. She did not welcome it, but it was hers now. She stared into the darkness, knowing that the coming nights would not be safe. that every shadow could hold more than simple danger. She felt the weight of attention, of expectation, of responsibility.
That she did not falter. She would move.
She would act, and she would survive. The night deepened, cold and silent. Lena stayed alert, waiting, ready, and watching. The name given to her would follow her, but she would prove that it meant more than fear. It meant control. It meant survival. It meant the quiet power that ended threats before they began. Far above, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if watching the quiet human who had changed everything. The night was cold and full of shadows. Lena's team huddled in the ruins, keeping their weapons ready. The silence was not peaceful. Every small sound, every shifting stone made them alert. Lena watched the darkness like it could speak. She had learned to read it, to feel threats before they struck. Ren stayed close to her side. He had grown to trust her instincts, following her silently. Kale moved with less arrogance, listening, observing, ready to act if needed. Ivo's hand shook, but he did not complain. The others from Arin's team watched, hesitant, unsure how to behave around Lena. They had heard the whispers, seen her moves, and now feared and respected her. Suddenly, the shadows moved. Shapes appeared out of nowhere. They were not cadets, not creatures from training. These were attackers, swift, organized, and armed. They struck without warning. The camp erupted into chaos. Lena reacted immediately. She did not shout. She did not panic. She moved with quiet precision, guiding Ren and Kale through the ruins. Ivo followed, trembling but staying close. Every strike was calculated, each movement deliberate. She did not waste effort. She ended threats before they could reach her team. The attackers faltered. They had not expected such speed, such control. Many retreated, injured, confused. The cadets looked at Lena in shock. Her calm in the storm, her silent efficiency, made them rethink everything they believed about humans. Ren whispered her name again, Death Whisper. Lena did not respond. She did not need to. Her actions spoke louder than words. After the attack, silence fell, heavier than before. The ruins seemed to breathe around them. Lena moved through the camp, checking her team, ensuring no one was hurt. The others followed cautiously, still unsure what to make of her. Arin's team stayed on guard, watching the shadows for further danger. Lena sensed that the attackers had come for her specifically. She could feel it in the air. The targeting was precise, the strikes coordinated. They wanted to test the human, and she had survived. This realization weighed on her. The game was changing. The academy was no longer just a place of training. It was now a field of observation, a stage for a predator's test. Commander Holt watched from the control center. His eyes narrowed at the screen. He had underestimated Lena, underestimated humans in general. He opened files he had long ignored, reading through human tactics, endurance tests, and survival strategies. His hands clenched in thought. Humans were dangerous not because of strength, but because of control, adaptability, and the ability to act when others hesitated. Far beyond the moon, in distant sectors, signals carried the footage of Lena's actions. Observers paused, replayed, and studied. The human cadet had proven herself. Her reputation would travel fast. The galaxy would soon know the name Death Whisper. Back in the ruins, Lena and her team prepared for the next move. They had no time to rest. The night was alive with threats. Lena guided them through narrow passages and hidden corridors. She moved silently, striking only when necessary, never making noise. The attackers seemed to vanish as quickly as they had appeared, but Lena did not relax. She knew they could return at any moment. Ren stayed close, his eyes wide with respect. Kale moved without hesitation, finally trusting Lena's instincts. Ivo trembled but kept pace. Orin's team followed cautiously, learning that silence and control were as deadly as any weapon. Hours passed. The moon moved across the sky. The ruins grew colder, darker. Lena kept watch, listening, watching, waiting. Every sound, every shadow told her something. The night was her ally, her teacher, and her test. She knew that this was only the beginning. The attacks, the whispers, the fear and respect from others, all of it marked her path. She was no longer just a cadet. She was a symbol, a warning, and a force. As the first light of dawn touched the ruins, Lena took a deep breath. The night had tested her. She had passed, but she knew that the challenges ahead would be greater. The name Death Whisper would follow her, and she would need to live up to it. Lena stood tall, silent, and watchful, ready for what came next. The ruins were empty now, but she knew the danger had not gone. It was only waiting, watching, and learning. And so was she. Dawn did not bring comfort. The light only showed how damaged the ruins had become. Scorch marks darkened the stone. Broken tools lay scattered where cadets had fallen back in fear. Lena stood at the highest point and watched the land wake up. Ren joined her, quiet as always. He did not ask questions. He trusted her silence. Below them, Kale checked the perimeter with new care. Ivo sat against a wall, pale but alive. Orin's team gathered their gear, speaking in low voices. No one laughed. No one boasted. The wrist units buzzed together. A new order. All cadets were to move to the central structure for extraction. The message was short, too short. Lena felt the pressure in the air again, stronger than before. This was not just about safety. Something had changed. They moved out. The path to the central structure cut across open ground. Lena chose the route without speaking, avoiding high ridges and narrow gaps. The others followed her lead without question now. Even Orin watched her closely, waiting for her signals. Halfway there, the air shifted. Lena raised her hand. Everyone stopped. The ground ahead looked empty, but it was not. Lena could feel eyes on them, watching, measuring. The attack came from multiple sides. Figures surged from behind rocks and shallow pits. Not creatures, not cadets. These were trained fighters, moving with purpose. Their focus was clear. They ignored others and pressed toward Lena. She understood then. This was not random. They wanted her. But Lena moved forward instead of back. Her calm broke the panic before it could spread. She guided Ren left and Kale right with quick hand signs. Ivo stayed behind her, protected by her movements. Orin shouted orders, but his voice was lost in the clash. Lena struck with control, not anger. Each movement was clean. She used the terrain, the light, the enemy's mistakes. She did not rush. She did not hesitate. The attackers were strong, but they were not ready for her patience. One by one, their advance failed. A sharp cry cut through the air. Ren went down, hit while protecting Kale. Lena turned instantly. The world narrowed to one point. She moved faster than before, stopping the threat before it could strike again. Ren was alive, but hurt. Lena knelt beside him, her hands steady. She checked his breathing, pressed a seal to his wound. Open. Her face showed no panic, only focus. Kale watched, shaken. He realized something then. Lena was not fearless. She cared deeply. She simply refused to let fear control her. The remaining attackers pulled back. They had lost momentum. They had learned what they needed. Silence fell again. Orin approached Lena slowly. He spoke with respect now. He said the attackers were not part of any academy test. He said someone had broken rules to reach her. Lena nodded. She already knew. The wrist units buzzed again. A new message? This one marked urgent. All cadets were to hold position. Extraction was delayed. Above the moon, Commander Holt stared at the screens. His jaw was tight. He had traced the signal paths. The leak. The observers. The truth was clear. Lena had been marked. Humans had been judged long ago. Quietly, unfairly. Lena's actions had forced the galaxy to look again. Some saw danger. Others saw potential. Either way, the human cadet could not be ignored anymore. Back on the ground, Lena helped Ren stand. He leaned on her, weak but smiling. He said she had saved him. She shook her head. They had saved each other. The group formed a tight circle as night approached again. No one wandered. No one argued. Lena sat at the center, silent, watchful. Whispers moved through the camp, but they were different now. The name Death Whisper was spoken with respect, even relief. Where she stood, dangers seemed to fade. Lena stared into the dark. She felt tired, deeper than muscle or bone. But she also felt clear. She understood who she was becoming, even if she did not fully accept it yet. She was not a weapon. She was a shield. Far away, decisions were being made. Fleets adjusted their paths. Councils argued. Files were rewritten. The night passed slowly. Lena stayed awake until the first hint of light touched the horizon. She knew the final test was coming. Not just for her, but for everyone who feared or doubted humans. When the wrist units finally buzzed again, she was ready. Whatever came next, she would face it quietly, and the galaxy would listen. The sky over the training moon was pale and still. The coal did not fade with the light. Lena stood at the edge of the camp and watched the horizon. She felt calm, not because danger was gone, but because she was ready. The others waited behind her. Ren sat with his back against a stone, bandaged and weak, but alert. Kale checked his gear again and again, not from fear this time, but from habit. Ivo stayed quiet, his eyes moving with every sound. Orin and his team formed a wide ring, keeping watch in all directions. The wrist units buzzed together. A single message: remain in place. Threat confirmed. Human cadet is priority. Lena read the words once. Then she closed the display. No one spoke. They all understood now. This was no longer an exercise. This was not about grades or survival scores. Someone had come to take her, or to remove her. The air changed. Lena felt it before anyone else, a low pressure, like the world leaning inward. Shapes appeared on the far ridges, not rushing, not hiding, walking forward with purpose. They were many. Orange swore under his breath. Kale tightened his grip. Ivo froze. Lena raised her hand. Stay. Her voice was calm. Clear, not loud. She stepped forward alone. Ren tried to stand. Lena glanced back once and shook her head. He understood and stayed down. The attackers spread out as they approached, armored, trained, watching her every move. Their leader stepped forward. tall and still. His voice carried across the stone. He said humans were unstable, too adaptable, too dangerous. He said the galaxy could not allow a future where humans learned too much, too fast. Lena. When he finished, she spoke. She said she did not come here to threaten anyone. She came to learn, to train, to stand beside others. She said humans did not seek control. They sought survival. The leader laughed softly and raised his weapon. Lena moved. She did not charge. She did not hide. She walked forward, then vanished into motion. Her steps were light, her path unpredictable. She used the ground, the shadows, the fear in her enemies. The fight spread across the open field. Lena struck with precision. Not wild, not cruel. Each move had purpose. She disarmed when she could. She disabled when needed. When there was no other choice, she ended the threat quickly and quietly. Behind her, the cadets found courage. Oren shouted orders with clarity. Kal fought with focus. Ivo followed Ren's guidance, steadying his hands. They moved as one. The attackers did not expect this. They had planned for a weapon. They found a leader. The battle shifted. Lena faced the leader again near the center of the field. He was strong, skilled, but he hesitated just once. Lena did not. It ended. Silence fell across the moon. The remaining attackers withdrew, dragging their wounded, their certainty broken. They had come to judge humanity. They left with doubt. Lena stood still, breathing slow. Her hands were steady, her face calm. The wrist units buzzed again. Extraction inbound. Ships broke through the sky moments later, descending with controlled force. Academy security poured out, securing the area. Commander Holt stepped onto the stone, his face unreadable. He looked at the field, at the fallen attackers, at the cadets standing together. Then he looked at Lena. He saluted.
Not as a cadet, as an equal.
Medical teams rushed to Ren. Lena stayed until he was safe. He smiled at her and closed his eyes, exhausted but alive. Kale approached her slowly. He said he had been wrong. He said fear had blinded him. Lena nodded once. That was enough. Ivo thanked her with shaking hands. Oren bowed his head in respect. News spread quickly. Footage of the battle reached distant systems. Councils went silent. Old assumptions broke. Humans were no longer a question mark. They were a fact. Later, aboard the extraction ship, Lena stood alone by a small window. Stars passed quietly beyond the glass. Commander Holt joined her. He said the Academy would change. Rules would be rewritten. Humans would no longer be underestimated. He asked her what she wanted next. Lena thought for a moment. She said she wanted to keep training, to learn, to protect those who stood beside her. Holt nodded. The ship jumped to faster space. Far across the galaxy, the name Death Whisper spread, not as a tale of fear alone, but as a reminder. Danger does not always roar. Sometimes it ends quietly. Lena closed her eyes and rested for the first time since landing on the moon. Her journey was only beginning, but the galaxy would never forget the night it learned to listen for the whisper.